Help me reach 1,000 subscribers. Please, like the video and share your thoughts. In the comments, your feedback helps make the content better. Before we get started, make sure you subscribe to my channel so you don't miss more real-life stories like this one. I remember that night clearly. She said she had to cover an emergency shift. Outside, the rain was soft, turning the city lights into blurry watercolors against the windows. I stood by the kitchen, watching her tie her hair back, her hospital badge catching a flicker of light. "Don't wait up," she said, smiling. That kind of practiced, effortless smile people wear when they've already made a decision you haven't seen coming. "Emergency shift," she added, grabbing her purse. "Short staff again." I nodded. I'd heard that before. Once or twice made sense. But lately, these emergency shifts were becoming a pattern. Fridays, Sundays, then random Tuesdays. At first, I wasn't suspicious. I was proud that my wife, a nurse, cared enough to give up her nights for others. But pride quietly turns into doubt when stories stop matching up with reality. It started small. A perfume I didn't recognize. A missed call she shrugged off. A sudden password on her phone. "Hospital policy," she'd said, smiling again. That smile was her shield, and for far too long, I had played the fool behind it. But that night felt different. She seemed almost eager to leave. I noticed in the bounce of her step, the darker shade of lipstick, the little laugh when I asked, "Long night?" "You know how it is," she said, kissing me quickly, distracted. And yes, I did. When she drove off, I didn't sit down. I just watched her taillights fade down the wet street. Truth rarely arrives all at once. It seeps in quietly, slowly. I hadn't planned to snoop. I'm not that type of person. But when someone you love is already halfway gone, you start looking for something, anything, to prove you're not imagining it. Her laptop sat on the counter, open. A small blinking notification caught my eye. A message preview. Ethan. Not a doctor. Not a nurse. Just Ethan. I clicked. The messages weren't explicit. They didn't need to be. They were worse. Gentle, intimate, familiar. Words like, "Miss you already. You looked incredible tonight." My hands went cold. My heart didn't race. It slowed. Everything inside me held still, like the world waiting for the storm. I closed the laptop and sat there for a long time, surrounded by our framed photos. Our wedding day, her graduation, our first home. Silent witnesses to a story I thought we were living. And then the truth hit. I had been living in a story only I believed in. She came home around 2:30 a.m., still smiling, still humming softly. Her hair was slightly tousled, not from exhaustion. Her cheeks flushed, not from work. I didn't speak. I just looked at her. Really looked. Something inside me clicked. I grabbed a black marker from the drawer, walked to the living room wall, the one with that framed quote she loved. "Love lives here." Beneath it I wrote, slowly and deliberately, "Truth does too." It wasn't rage. It was realization. I didn't yell. I didn't accuse. I just wrote the words and went to bed. The next morning, I heard her heels clicking across the floor, her bag dropping, then a silence that was sharp and heavy. "Daniel," she called, her voice trembling. I didn't answer. She stepped into the doorway, the color draining from her face as she saw the writing. "What? What did you write?" She already knew. I looked at her quietly and said something honest. Her mouth opened, then closed. The twitch in her fingers, the tremor in her breath, those spoke louder than words. The mask cracked. There she stood, the woman who once rushed home to me, frozen now between guilt and disbelief. I didn't move, didn't comfort, didn't accuse. I just watched her stare at those words, the same wall where our first Christmas photo once hung, and finally understand the game was over. For nearly a minute, she said nothing. She just trembled, staring at the ink that had turned our home into a confession. Finally, her voice was thin. "Daniel, what's that supposed to mean?" I smiled faintly, not with anger, just exhaustion. "You tell me." She swallowed hard, glancing at the wall and back at me. "This isn't fair. You're trying to make a point." "Yeah, I said softly. I guess I am. I could see her mind racing, searching for her usual script, the calm nurse tone she used to diffuse everything at work. But this wasn't a shift she could clock out of. Daniel, she tried again, you're overthinking. I was at work. Ask me. I laughed under my breath. Don't insult me with another lie. I read the messages. Her face went pale. The pretense fell away, if only for a moment. She even looked relieved. Pretending is exhausting. She sat on the bed, rubbing her temples. It wasn't supposed to go this far, she whispered. That's what they all say. I murmured. How far was it supposed to go? I asked. She didn't answer. I leaned back, watching her. I thought of all the nights I stayed up fixing things, the dinners I wore myself out cooking after her shifts, the way love can fade into routine. Something you do because you remember when it used to matter. She finally looked up. Are you going to leave me? I paused. Truth was, part of me still trusted her, still believed in us. I don't know, I said quietly, but I'm done living in a home built on half-truths. She stood, voice trembling. You don't understand, Daniel. It just happened. We were working late and I... Stop, I said calmly. You made a choice, maybe more than once. So did I. I chose to believe you. I chose to forgive what I didn't even know yet. But not anymore. She began to cry, softly at first, then harder, hands covering her face. I didn't comfort her. Those weren't tears of heartbreak. They were guilt and relief at not having to hide anymore. When she finally stopped, she asked, Can we talk about this? Really talk. I think we just did, I said. Her gaze returned to the wall. Truth does, too. 3 words that changed everything. Later that day, she packed a small bag. No shouting, no begging, just quiet movements, a zipper closing, the soft click of the front door. I didn't stop her. That evening, I sat in the same chair, watching the fading light across the wall. The marker ink had dried dark and permanent. I thought about painting over it, but I didn't. It wasn't just a message to her. It was a reminder to me. That night, I slept better than I had in months. Not because I stopped caring, but because I finally stopped pretending. The next morning, I made coffee for one. Her chair was empty, but for the first time, the space didn't feel lonely. It felt honest. Sometimes love doesn't end in flames or shouting. Sometimes it ends quietly, with truth written in plain sight and a man who finally sees it. And when people ask what happened, I tell them this. She came home smiling from her emergency shift and left when she saw what I had written on the wall.